Hello, it's me, Mario. Woohoo! You watching GRTV, my favorite. Wahoo!
So we're looking at Call of Duty Black Ops, and I'm talking to Hank Keirsey, the military advisor for the entire series, I believe. Could you give us a brief idea of who you are and what sort of advice you're giving to Activision?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a military advisor, as you mentioned, for Call of Duty. Been with them since the beginning. A very dedicated team of developers. I admired them. I didn't want to have anything to do with this industry, but they brought me out and it convinced me when they're making those World War II games of the passion they had for getting it right, and they're kind of teaching history. They're doing so good. So, yeah, I joined in with them, and I looked at the work ethic and been very impressed. What I do is at various stages as they assemble the game, like a car going down an assembly line, I'm able to come in and work with them when they get their initial concept. A lot of questions about how soldiers hold weapons, how a tank infantry team in World War II would operate, how you would dismount from a helicopter, how you'd call for indirect fire support from field artillery. So I'm able to answer these questions. And as we get further along, I can take a look and say, hey, that's not a way a tank would move down a street. That's not the way the soldiers would accompany armored formation. So, again, all the credit to the developers, a lot of passion, but a guy who's been on the ground 24 years, combat infantryman, United States Army, who's done these things and who's studied history, able to say from a last-minute perspective, that's the way you wear that kit, that's the proper weapon.
So you're a U.S. military, 24 years. Could you give us a brief idea about your history? I mean, what sort of stuff have you been through yourself?
I would say, I'd like to say the horrendous, combat actions I've had. I went into the first Gulf War and expecting horrendous defense by the Iraqis, and they all surrendered to me. You had a few artillery rounds land about me. The flaming petrol ditch full of petrol never happened. The nerve agent never happened. We wore those stupid suits. The minefield that was supposed to be 400 meters in width that we were supposed to breach on our bellies, we never happened. So it was just pretty much hurting prisoners in that conflict. In Panama before that, we got in late and we just kind of cruised around and saw the aftermath of the great fight in Panama. Then I went to Iraq for 3 times, a couple times as a contractor, once working with the Army. This is after I retired. Probably got more action there, being shot at going down the highway between Baghdad Center, Green Zone, and the airfield than I did in other engagements. But again, no real, I can't take any grueling, gripping action in all those that year. But a lot of exposure to soldiers, a lot of exposure to the history.
Do you look back on those times with excitement or terror or pride? I mean, how do you feel? Especially, how do you feel when you see Activision making these games about things that you've been through as well?
Well, first of all, they're making a great game, so I think they honor in the World War II games. I think they honored that generation by making a good game, and I think they honor soldiers in the field today by making a decent modern warfare game. What's cool about Black Ops is we haven't covered in Activision. We haven't really talked about the Vietnam era, the Cold War era, and I think since it's set in the backdrop of Vietnam, I think it will be, again, an eye-opener to some people to figure out what Vietnam was all about. But what was the other question you asked there? I mean, I've rambled about on you a bit.
I mean, how do you feel about your past experience? Do you look back on that with excitement? Do you feel excited when you get to advise Activision about these events?
Oh yeah, I like these guys, and I'm excited to really impart my experiences and maybe help out the game that way. And I was talking to one of the developers or the publicity guys last night. He's 25 years old. He said when I was 25, he was talking about his responsibility of putting this game out and having to herd people around. He said when I was 25, I commanded a 42-man paratroop platoon. All right, and we hurled ourselves into the inky black darkness, and we're ready on 18-hour notice to go anywhere in the world and fight anybody in the defense of freedom and liberty. And I said, so that's where I was when I was 25.
But you didn't have to hit. You didn't have to hit any development milestones, did you?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't get the pressure of trying to do the development milestones. Yeah, so it's equal pressure on both sides. Yeah, equal responsibility.
How do you feel about Medal of Honor? Came across some criticism recently about their depiction of modern combat. And I think a lot of critics of gaming in general, they don't like the idea of of video games about current conflicts. I think it might be slightly tasteless, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of resistance to that, and there were the old World War II guys when I used to interview them. They'd say, "I don't want to have anything to do with video games," and then I'd say, "Well, about 2 million, 15 million people will never have any idea what you did at Point du Hoc in Normandy until they play this game, and now they may have some interest in what's going on with that." And then the old guy goes, "Oh yeah? Let me tell you, I went up this rope, I jumped in that ditch, I came along in here, and I found the guns back there." So, and likewise, I know that Medal of Honor is kind of dicey because they go into a current conflict that's still ongoing. But if I understand it, I don't know the exact battle. I think they're doing the Anaconda battle. Is that right? Is it?
I actually don't know myself, but
It was a phenomenal fight, and in the lessons in command and control, I have no knowledge of what their game looks like. I know the developer over there is a great guy. I wish him the best, but is there any difference between going to World War II or a fight that finished in Afghanistan? I don't think it. I think if they do the game accurately and show the physical courage required by both sides in that contest, there might be something to be gained. I would rather a 18-year-old, immerse himself in something and maybe come out of it and say, "I wonder what really happened," and go pick up a book. And this really happened? Whoa, Jesus. These guys, I'm going to talk to that guy coming off the airplane. "Hey, were you in Afghanistan?" "Yeah, I played that game. Was it anything like that?" Now you have some little bit of interest there. So to all those guys that say that hate video gamers and hate the video game industry, I'd say if you got it based on a real life scenario and you give them credit and honor to the event, it's probably a good thing.
So you think there's a generation, or maybe more than one generation now, growing up with very little idea of what happened in World War II, and they're getting most of their education through video games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially like Vietnam. Who knows what happened in Vietnam? Hey, we lost in Vietnam. Wait a second. Were we had the illusion of supporting a sovereign government that didn't exist once we left? Is there a parallel to something we're doing now? There's all kinds of things to be learned. So I do think that the guy that's got 7 hours in the basement yet still has a little intellectual curiosity, hasn't completely numbed his brain, is more willing to pick up some things, be curious. Intellect is all about asking the question. There's a kid will go through an experience and ask the question, say, "Why is that building there?" or "Why is this there?" He's one of the smart ones. Somebody will just walk down the street and never see anything. But the kid with the potential intellect to be a leader in the next generation is going to have some questions that come up, and hopefully he'll try to answer them some way or the other. When they go into these games, they should come out with a few questions.
And we've just seen the Vietnam presentation. They just walked us through the Vietnam level. Did you advise on anything specific that we would have seen today?
My involvement in this particular game has probably been less directly since I spent a year in Iraq working with the Army. Just came back in April. But we sat very intensely at the beginning of the developmental process and talked about potential scenarios and how Delta Force, how special operations guys operate, what strategic reconnaissance is, and all of that. And then as I wandered off to do what I had to do, they worked very hard, found a guy that was in this outfit, found the predecessor for Delta Force, this special operations group, renamed the Studies and Observation Group. And got a Spetsnaz guy and did a lot of hellacious research. I came back and looked at him and said, "Wow, that is a great outfit to track. That is a gamer paradise. They can choose any weapon they want. They do amazing missions, strategic reconnaissance behind enemy line, pick up down pilots, rescue POWs. Lots of levels can be built out of that. So it fits very nicely." The other thing they did, they took a studio that used to do 3 games, put their money where it counted, took that entire studio and devoted it for this one game. So, working on the graphics, working on the audio, working on the scenario, working on the script. So I think it's going to be an outstanding game.
And Treyarch told us that, as he mentioned, they have Russian soldiers advising them on how to design certain aspects of their AI. Do you think it's just going forward with games in general? Is it good when war games draw upon the experiences of people who are actually there? And I mean, what would you think of a World War II shooter that say didn't talk to any soldiers before they went ahead and developed this game and I don't know, filled the game full of inaccuracies?
Well, I think they hadn't honored the genre by doing that. When we did World War II, I insisted we went and talked to all the guys during the fight. If they're doing the Falaise Gap fight outside of Normandy, we talked to the Medal of Honor winner up in Bremerton, Washington, sat in his house, drank Pabst Blue Ribbon beer with him. I was distinctly honored to be able to see him pull out a tin box, show me the medal, tell me the stories. That all went into the game. When we did the Big Red One, I sat with all the veterans of that conflict, that were probably about 18 of them, and got their story. Put that back. Now, did that go into the game, every one of those stories? No, but the game developers watched that footage, and we actually included it in one of the discs on Big Red One anyway. So, yeah, I think it helped make a better game, help make a crisper game, help honor that generation more rather than just fanciful stuff running around.
And finally, how many press-ups can you do?
I can do twice as many as you can.
Do you want to try?
Yeah. You want to get on the wall?
Wall press-ups.
Wall press-ups.
Okay. We can do that.
You want to hold the microphone? You got it? I'll show you how to do it. You can do one or two with the hard way or the easy way. This stuff not coming out of the pocket, but it does. Going up. Lock your hands up left from your neck.
Yeah.
Start with your head.
Oh, God.